The long history of ancient Rome, one of history's most iconic civilizations, begins with King Romulus. Tradition holds that in 753 BC, he founded the city on the banks of the Tiber River. Central to this myth are Romulus and his twin brother Remus, nurtured by a she-wolf. Their journey leads to the city's establishment, yet ends in tragedy when Romulus, in a fateful rivalry, slays Remus, becoming Rome's first king. This event marked the inception of the Roman kingdom. During its early years, Rome was ruled by a series of 7 kings, each contributing to the city's growth and development. The regal period witnessed the establishment of key institutions such as the Senate and various religious practices. The construction of important structures like the Regia Palace and the Temple of Jupiter Optimus Maximus were done during this period. During Rome's kingdom period, Rome was a city-state nestled by the Tiber River, but its expansion didn't take off until the Roman Republic. Both literary and archaeological sources provide unequivocal evidence of the existence of kings in Rome, as documented in fragmentary texts dating back to the 6th century BC. Even after the abolition of the Roman monarchy, remnants persisted in the form of the vestigial Rex Sacrarum, tasked with performing the religious duties once held by the monarch. Traditionally, and as recounted by later historians like Livy, the Roman Republic is said to have been founded around 509 BC. This significant moment followed the deposition of Tarquin the Proud, the final monarch of the Roman kingdom. In its place emerged a system characterized by the annual election of magistrates and the establishment of representative assemblies. A constitution was established, instituting a framework of checks and balances along with a division of powers. At the forefront were the 2 consuls, holding significant executive powers including imperium, or military command. Collaborating with the Senate, originally an advisory body composed of the noble patricians, the consuls navigated governance, while the Senate's influence and membership expanded over time. In the 4th century BC, Rome faced a formidable threat from the Gauls, whose influence expanded across the Italian peninsula, reaching beyond the Po Valley and into Etruria. On July 16, 390 BC, a Gallic force led by tribal leader Brennus achieved a decisive victory over the Romans at the Battle of the Allia before advancing upon Rome itself. The Gauls ravaged and set fire to the city, besieging the Capitoline Hill, where defiant Romans had fortified themselves for 7 grueling months. Under pressure, the Romans paid 1,000 pounds of gold to the Gauls for peace. However, during the gold weighing, a Roman official suspected fraud due to Gauls using false scales. This suspicion reignited Roman resistance, leading to armed conflict. General Camillus led Rome to victory, reaffirming that Rome relied on strength, not gold, to safeguard sovereignty. Camillus declared, "Rome secures her liberty with iron, not gold." Over time, the Romans extended their dominion over the various peoples inhabiting the Italian peninsula, even bringing the Etruscans under their control. The final challenge to Roman supremacy in Italy arose when Tarentum, a significant Greek settlement, sought assistance from Pyrrhus of Epirus in 281 BC. However, this endeavor also ended in failure. To solidify their hold on the territory, the Romans strategically established colonies in key locations, ensuring enduring control over the region. In the 3rd century BC, Rome found itself facing a formidable new adversary, Carthage, the other dominant power in the western Mediterranean. The onset of the First Punic War in 264 BC was triggered by Messana's plea to Carthage for assistance in its conflicts with Hero II of Syracuse. Subsequently, after Carthage intervened, Messana sought Rome's aid in expelling the Carthaginians. Rome joined the conflict for several reasons: to safeguard the newly acquired Greek cities of southern Italy from Carthaginian encroachment, to prevent Carthage from launching offensives through Roman territory, and to potentially expand its influence over Sicily. Carthage, a formidable maritime force, posed a significant challenge to the Roman Republic due to Rome's limited naval resources and experience. Despite this disadvantage, Rome persevered through more than 2 decades of warfare before achieving victory over Carthage, leading to the signing of a peace treaty. The seeds of the Second Punic War were sown in the war reparations imposed on Carthage, following the conclusion of the First Punic War. The conflict erupted with the bold invasion of Iberia by Hannibal, whose daring march through the region and across the Italian Alps instilled fear among Rome's allies in Italy. To counter Hannibal's strategy of inducing Italian defection from Rome, Quintus Fabius Maximus Verrucosus advocated for a guerrilla campaign of attrition, aimed at prolonging the conflict and wearing down the Carthaginian forces. Hannibal's invasion spanned over 16 tumultuous years, wreaking havoc upon Italy. However, the turning point came with the decisive Battle of Zama in October 202 BC, where Carthage suffered a conclusive defeat, marking the end of Hannibal's campaign and the ultimate triumph of Rome. Over half a century later, Carthage found itself humbled, while the Roman Republic shifted its focus towards the Hellenistic kingdoms of Greece and uprisings in Hispania. Despite having paid the war indemnity, Carthage believed its obligations to Rome had ended, a perspective not shared by the Roman Senate. The onset of the Third Punic War came with Rome's declaration of hostilities against Carthage in 149 BC. Initially, Carthage put up a strong resistance, but it ultimately succumbed to the relentless assault led by Scipio Aemilianus. The city was razed to the ground, its populace enslaved, and the entire region brought under Roman control, forming the province of Africa. These conflicts marked Rome's inaugural overseas conquests, encompassing Sicily, Hispania, and Africa, heralding Rome's ascension as a significant imperial force. Following their triumph over the Macedonian and Seleucid empires during the 2nd century BC, the Romans emerged as the preeminent power in the Mediterranean region. The subjugation of the Hellenistic realms facilitated a closer interaction between Roman and Greek cultures, leading to a transformation among the Roman elite, who transitioned from their rural origins to embrace a cosmopolitan lifestyle. During this period, Rome stood as a firmly established empire from a military standpoint, facing no significant adversaries. Foreign dominance sparked internal strife in Rome. Senators enriched themselves at the expense of the provinces, while soldiers, mainly small-scale farmers, struggled to maintain their land due to prolonged absences. Increased reliance on foreign slaves and the growth of large estates limited job opportunities. Wealth from war, trade, and taxes created a new merchant class, the equestrians. However, Senate laws restricted their political power. Continuous Senate disputes blocked reforms and denied equestrians a larger role in governance. Urban unemployed gangs, manipulated by competing senators, terrorized voters with violence. Tensions escalated in the late 2nd century BC with the actions of the Gracchi brothers, tribunes who sought to enact land reforms, redistributing patrician estates to the plebeians. Both brothers were assassinated, and the Senate rolled back their reforms, deepening the chasm between the plebeian populares and the equestrian optimates. Gaius Marius swiftly rose to prominence within the Republic, securing the first of his unprecedented 7 consulships in 107 BC. He argued that his former patron, Quintus Caecilius Metellus Numidicus, had failed to defeat and capture the Numidian king Jugurtha. Marius initiated military reforms by enlisting the impoverished, a novel approach that saw many landless individuals joining the army to combat Jugurtha. Continuing his political ascent, Marius held 5 consecutive consulships from 104 to 100 BC, as Rome faced threats from the Cimbri and the Teutones. His leadership was vital in repelling these dangers. Following Marius's retirement, Rome experienced a brief period of peace during which the Italian Socii, or allies, petitioned for Roman citizenship and voting rights. Marcus Livius Drusus championed their cause but was assassinated, triggering the social war as the Socii rebelled against Roman authority. Amidst the turmoil, both consuls perished. At the conclusion of the social war, Marius and Sulla emerged as the preeminent military figures in Rome, sparking conflict between their respective factions, each vying for supremacy. In 88 BC, Sulla secured his inaugural consulship and was tasked with quelling Mithridates VI of Pontus, who harbored ambitions of expanding into Roman territories in the east. However, Marius' supporters maneuvered to install him in the military command, challenging Sulla and defying the Senate. To assert his authority, Sulla resorted to a bold and unlawful maneuver. He led his legions to Rome, eliminating all who backed Marius's cause. Meanwhile, in 87 BC, Marius, having fled Sulla's advance, returned to Rome while Sulla campaigned in Greece. Teaming up with consul Lucius Cornelius Cinna, Marius seized power and orchestrated the demise of his co-consul, Gnaeus Octavius, securing his 7th consulship. Marius and Cinna exacted revenge on their adversaries through a brutal massacre. Marius passed away in 86 BC, succumbing to age and declining health mere months after assuming control. Cinna wielded unchecked authority until his death in 84 BC. Upon his return from the eastern campaigns, Sulla encountered little resistance in reclaiming power. In 83 BC, Sulla embarked on his second march to Rome, unleashing a reign of terror. Thousands of nobles, knights, and senators met their demise under his ruthless regime. Sulla assumed 2 dictatorships and an additional consulship, marking the onset of the crisis and downfall of the Roman Republic. Amidst these political tensions, social and economic pressures mounted. Rome burgeoned into a bustling metropolis, characterized by a wealthy aristocracy, debt-ridden aspirants, and a sizable proletariat, many of whom were impoverished farmers. These marginalized groups found solace in the Catilinarian conspiracy, a failed attempt to violently seize control of the Roman state in 63 BC, but their hopes were dashed when Consul Cicero swiftly apprehended and executed the key conspirators, marking the conspiracy as a resounding failure. Gaius Julius Caesar played a pivotal role in reconciling the 2 most influential figures in Rome. Marcus Licinius Crassus, who had been a key financier throughout his early career, and Crassus' rival, Gnaeus Pompeius Magnus, commonly known as Pompey, whom he further connected by marrying his daughter to Pompey. This union formed a new informal alliance known as the First Triumvirate, consisting of Caesar, Crassus, and Pompey. However, the triumvirate's cohesion was short-lived. Tragedy struck when Caesar's daughter perished in childbirth in 54 BC, followed by Crassus's ill-fated invasion of Parthia the next year, resulting in his death at the Battle of Carrhae and the dissolution of the alliance. Undeterred, Caesar embarked on a campaign to conquer Gaul, amassing vast wealth, admiration in Rome, and the unwavering loyalty of battle-hardened legions. His growing power posed a threat to Pompey and incurred the enmity of many Optimates. Believing that Caesar could be thwarted through legal means, Pompey's faction attempted to strip him of his legions, setting the stage for Caesar's trial, subsequent impoverishment, and eventual exile. To avert such a fate, Caesar made the fateful decision to cross the Rubicon River and march into Rome in 49 BC. The Battle of Pharsalus marked a resounding triumph for Caesar, during which he decisively defeated the leaders of the Optimates faction, including Metellus Scipio and Cato the Younger. Pompey himself met his demise in Egypt in 48 BC. With his adversaries vanquished, Caesar ascended to unrivaled dominance over Rome. Within the span of 5 years, he secured 4 consulships, 2 ordinary dictatorships, and 2 extraordinary dictatorships, one of which was granted for perpetuity. However, his meteoric rise came to an abrupt end with his assassination on the Ides of March in 44 BC, orchestrated by the Liberatores. Caesar's assassination plunged Rome into political and social upheaval, leaving the city under the control of his ally and associate, Marcus Antonius. Shortly thereafter, Octavius, whom Caesar had posthumously adopted in his will, returned to Rome. He sought to align himself with the Caesarian faction. In 43 BC, Octavian, alongside Antony and Marcus Aemilius Lepidus, Caesar's closest confidant, legally established the Second Triumvirate. This alliance led to the execution of 130 to 300 senators and the confiscation of their property, as they were suspected of supporting the Liberatores, the group responsible for Caesar's assassination. In 42 BC, Octavian and Antony achieved victory over both Caesar's assassins and the leaders of the Liberatores, Marcus Junius Brutus and Gaius Cassius Longinus, at the Battle of Philippi. The triumvirate allocated control of the empire among its members. Lepidus governed Africa. Antony oversaw the eastern provinces, while Octavian retained Italia and commanded Hispania and Gaul. Although the second triumvirate expired in 38 BC, it was renewed for an additional 5 years. However, tensions between Octavian and Antony escalated, leading to Lepidus's retirement in 36 BC after betraying Octavian in Sicily. Antony's alliance with Cleopatra in Egypt was viewed as treasonous due to her status as queen of a foreign realm, which clashed with Roman expectations. His extravagant lifestyle also conflicted with traditional Roman values. After Antony granted territories to Cleopatra and their children, war broke out with Octavian. The Battle of Actium in 31 BC resulted in Octavian's victory, leading to Antony and Cleopatra's suicides. This event marked Egypt's incorporation into Roman control. In 27 BC, at the age of 36, Octavian emerged as the singular Roman authority. It was during this time that he adopted the title Augustus. Historians commonly mark this event as the start of the Roman Empire. Despite the official republican structure, Augustus wielded absolute authority. His governmental reforms ushered in a 2-century era known colloquially among Romans as the Pax Romana. Augustus centralized power as princeps, reducing senatorial influence by empowering the equestrian order and directly appointing governors to provinces like Egypt. He formed the Praetorian Guard, reformed the military with 28 legions, ensuring full control over armed forces. Amid the calm of his rule, Augustus expanded the empire, conquering Cantabria, Raetia, Dalmatia, Illyricum, and Pannonia, fostering a golden age of Latin literature with poets like Virgil and Horace. Augustus also advanced calendar reforms and promoted patriotic works like Virgil's Aeneid. Following Augustus' passing in 14 AD, the Julio-Claudian dynasty continued their rule over Rome. Under the influence of his wife, Livia Drusilla, Augustus designated her son from a previous marriage, Tiberius, as his successor. The Senate endorsed this decision, bestowing upon Tiberius the same titles and honors previously held by Augustus. Despite these accolades, Tiberius showed little enthusiasm for political affairs. By mutual agreement with the Senate, he retired to Capri in 26 AD, delegating the governance of Rome to Praetorian prefect Sejanus until 31 AD, and Macro from 31 to 37 AD. During the reign of Tiberius, a significant event occurred in Judea, the crucifixion of Jesus of Nazareth under the governance of the Roman prefect Pontius Pilate. This event, believed to have taken place around 30 AD, holds profound significance in the history of Christianity and the Roman Empire, shaping the trajectory of religious and cultural developments in the centuries to come. In 37 AD, Tiberius died under uncertain circumstances, leaving the Julio-Claudian dynasty with limited male heirs. His nephew Claudius, grandson Tiberius Gemellus, and grandnephew Caligula. Caligula, chosen due to Gemellus' youth, initially enjoyed popularity, but later descended into tyrannical madness, leading to his assassination 4 years after Tiberius. Claudius, supported by the senators, became emperor. Unlike his predecessors, he showed less authoritarianism and expanded Roman territory by conquering Lycia, Thrace, and initiating the conquest of Britannia. However, Claudius was poisoned by his wife Agrippina the Younger in 54 AD. With Claudius's son Britannicus still young, Nero, Agrippina's son from a previous marriage, took the throne. Nero dispatched his general, Suetonius Paulinus, to mount an invasion of what is now Wales, where he encountered formidable resistance. Progress was slow, and it wasn't until 60 AD that he reached the northwest coast, eventually crossing the Menai Strait to the revered island of Mona, the final bastion of the Druids. There his soldiers launched an assault, resulting in the massacre of Druids, men, women, and children, and the desecration of their shrines, sacred groves, and the casting of numerous revered standing stones into the sea. Meanwhile, as Paulinus conducted his campaign on Mona, tribes in modern-day East Anglia revolted under the leadership of Queen Boudica of the Iceni. The insurgents sacked and razed Camulodunum, Londinium, and Verulamium before Paulinus crushed the rebellion. Boudica chose suicide over facing the humiliation of being paraded in triumph through Rome. Nero is notorious as the first persecutor of Christians and for the Great Fire of Rome, reportedly instigated by the emperor himself. In 68 AD, revolts erupted under Julius Vindex in Gaul and Servius Sulpicius Galba in modern-day Spain. Abandoned by the Praetorian Guards and condemned to death by the Senate, Nero opted for suicide. The Flavian dynasty marked the second ruling lineage in Rome's history. With Nero's demise in 68 AD, any prospect of reverting to the Roman Republic was extinguished, necessitating the ascent of a new emperor. Following the tumultuous events of the Year of the Four Emperors, Vespasian seized control of the empire, establishing a fresh dynasty. A pivotal military endeavor during the Flavian era was the siege and obliteration of Jerusalem in 70 AD by his son Titus. This marked the culmination of the Roman campaign in Judea following the Jewish uprising of 66 AD. Vespasian initiated the reconstruction of buildings destroyed by the Great Fire of Rome, revitalized the capital, and commenced the construction of the Flavian Amphitheater, famously known as the Colosseum. He bolstered the eastern frontier with legions in Cappadocia, extended Roman presence in Britannia, and implemented tax reforms before passing away in 79 AD. Titus succeeded his father in 79 AD. He oversaw the completion of the Flavian Amphitheater, funded by spoils from the First Jewish-Roman War, and hosted elaborate victory games lasting 100 days. These festivities featured gladiatorial contests, chariot races, and a dramatic mock naval battle on the flooded arena of the Colosseum. Titus succumbed to illness in 81 AD, succeeded by his brother Domitian. Domitian's reign was marked by autocratic tendencies, as he propagated a cult of personality and constructed temples in honor of Jupiter, the chief deity in Roman religion. His rule endured for 15 years until his assassination as a result of a conspiracy within his own household. Nerva was emperor for only 2 years and passed away in 98 AD, paving the way for the ascension of the accomplished general Trajan. It was during Trajan's reign that the Roman Empire attained its zenith, extending its dominion to cover approximately 5 million square kilometers. He is celebrated for his efforts in restoring the traditional rights and privileges of both the commoner and senatorial classes, which had reportedly waned during the autocratic rule of Domitian, as attested by later Roman historians. He led 3 triumphant Dacian campaigns, expanding Roman territories to encompass regions akin to present-day Romania and Moldova, and waged war against Parthia because of a dispute related to the king of Armenia, resulting in the conquest of Mesopotamia. Despite suppressing Parthian and Jewish uprisings, Trajan's health declined, prompting his withdrawal from active campaigns, and he succumbed to edema in 117. Many Romans settled in Hispania, intermarrying with locals, including a family that produced Emperor Hadrian. Hadrian withdrew troops from Parthia, Armenia, and Mesopotamia, ending Trajan's conquests. His army quelled revolts in Mauritania and Judea, the latter being the last major Jewish revolt against Rome, resulting in significant casualties and renaming Judea as Syria Palestina. Hadrian built famous structures like Hadrian's Wall in Britannia and promoted Greek culture while humanizing laws and advancing infrastructure across the empire. Antoninus Pius, his successor, continued these efforts, expanding Roman Britannia with the Antonine Wall and fostering arts and sciences, maintaining Hadrian's policies until his death in 161 AD. Marcus Aurelius, renowned as the philosopher, stood as the final figure among the 5 good emperors. A devout Stoic philosopher, he penned the renowned work Meditations. His leadership saw victories against barbarian tribes during the Marcomannic Wars and over the Parthian Empire. His co-emperor Lucius Verus met his demise in 169 AD, likely succumbing to the Antonine Plague, a pandemic that ravaged the empire, claiming the lives of nearly 5 million individuals between 165 and 180 AD. Following the passing of his father, Marcus Aurelius, Commodus ascended to the imperial throne. Despite his lineage, he is not included among the esteemed 5 good emperors, partly owing to his direct familial connection with Marcus Aurelius. Additionally, his reign was characterized by military inactivity. Cassius Dio starkly portrays Commodus's era as the dawn of Roman decline, describing the transformation from a kingdom of gold to one of iron and rust. Commodus met his end through a conspiracy led by Quintus Aemilius Latus in late 192 AD. The following year, known as the Year of the Five Emperors, saw the rapid succession of Helvius Pertinax. Pertinax, supported by Latus, governed briefly before being killed by the Praetorian Guard, who then sold the empire to Didius Julianus. Outraged, Roman citizens called on frontier legions for help. Septimius Severus, commander of the Pannonian legions, secured his rule by defeating his rivals, bribing factions, and forgiving the Praetorian Guard. His reign marked the start of military-backed governance and financial instability that foreshadowed the crisis of the 3rd century. Severus's campaigns included victories against Parthia and attempts to conquer Hatra and Britannia, but he faced setbacks and died in 211 AD. His sons Caracalla and Geta co-ruled briefly until Caracalla killed Geta. Caracalla continued his father's policies, extended Roman citizenship to all free men in the empire, and brutally suppressed dissent in Alexandria. He was assassinated in 217 AD by Macrinus, who then became emperor but was soon overthrown by Elagabalus in 218 AD. Elagabalus, notorious for his excesses, was killed by the Praetorian Guard, who then supported Severus Alexander. Severus Alexander's reign ended in 235 AD, initiating a severe crisis marked by civil wars, invasions, political instability, pandemics, and economic decline. As traditional Roman values waned, Christianity and Mithraism grew, and emperors increasingly came from the lower classes, rising through military strife. During this 49-year period, the Roman Empire experienced extreme political instability with 26 emperors. Maximinus Thrax, the first ruler in this era, governed for 3 years. Subsequent emperors like Gordian I, Gordian II, Balbinus, and Hostilian had brief reigns. Amidst this chaos, the welfare of the populace and the empire's frontiers were neglected as emperors focused on consolidating power. Economic troubles were exacerbated by military expenditures and hyperinflation. The plague of Cyprian in 250 AD decimated the population. In 260 AD, the Palmyrene Empire under Queen Zenobia and the Gallic Empire under Postumus seceded, following the capture of Emperor Valerian by the Sassanids. The crisis began to ebb under the reign of Emperor Claudius Gothicus and Emperor Aurelian, who reconquered the breakaway empires. The crisis was ultimately resolved during Diocletian's reign. In 284 AD, Diocletian was acclaimed imperator and introduced the Tetrarchy, dividing the empire among 4 rulers to stabilize governance. He also implemented tax reforms to stabilize the economy. Diocletian took decisive military action, repelling Persian incursions into Syria and subduing barbarian tribes with Maximian. He introduced Eastern monarchical customs, including prostration before the emperor, and did not disguise his rule in republican terms, unlike previous emperors. Constantine became a tetrarch in 306 and defeated rival tetrarchs, notably Maxentius in 312, leading to the Edict of Milan in 313, which allowed Christian worship. Despite setbacks against the Franks and Alemanni, he triumphed over Licinius in 324, consolidating control over the empire. Constantine rebuilt Byzantium as Nova Roma, later known as Constantinople. Julian briefly interrupted the succession of Christian emperors, attempting to revive Roman and Hellenistic religion. Constantinople emerged as the empire's new capital, reducing Rome's central role. From 286 to 330, Mediolanum served as the western capital until Ravenna was established in the 5th century under Honorius. In the late 4th and 5th centuries, the Western Roman Empire faced critical challenges leading to its downfall. The Huns' advance triggered the Great Migration, pushing tribes like the Goths, Vandals, and Alans westward. The last emperors of the Constantinian and Valentinian dynasties suffered defeats against the Sasanian Empire and Germanic tribes. Emperor Julian died in 363 during the Battle of Samarra, and Emperor Valens perished at the Battle of Adrianople in 378. The Goths remained a persistent threat. Theodosius I strengthened Christianity, and after his death the empire split between his sons, Arcadius in the east and Honorius in the west. The situation worsened after the death of General Stilicho in 408, leading to the collapse of the field army. In 410, the Visigoths sacked Rome. Throughout the 5th century, the Western Empire lost significant territories. The Vandals took North Africa, the Visigoths seized southern Gaul, the Suebi occupied Galaetia, Britannia was abandoned, and Attila the Hun's invasions further weakened the empire. General Orestes' refusal to meet the demands of the barbarian allies led to his defeat by Odoacer, who deposed Romulus Augustus in 476, marking the end of classical antiquity. Julius Nepos continued to claim the title of emperor from Dalmatia until his death in 480, with some historians considering him the last Western emperor instead of Romulus Augustus. Despite the fall of the West, the Eastern Roman Empire survived for nearly 1,000 years, becoming the most enduring Christian realm of the Middle Ages. The Byzantine Empire finally fell when Constantinople was conquered by Mehmed the Conqueror on May 29, 1453, ending the history of the Roman Empire and marking the beginning of the modern era.